Alright, let's jump straight into this training. 3 levers brands need to pull to succeed with their ads and why their campaigns fail. So just to give some credibility on why you should maybe listen to what I have to say for this, I've worked with dozens of brands now, a couple of 8-figure brands throughout that time, dozens of 7 figures and even more 6 figures, whether that's from a consulting perspective, chief revenue officer, sales leader, marketing leader, ads, you name it. I've pretty much played across the entire revenue engine and driven a lot of success in that time through my career. So the first thing I want to make clear is ads are not the money machine they are sold as. People will love to sell you on the idea that you just put $1 into ads and they'll spit $10, $5, $15 out, and they're just this ATM that you can just keep printing money from, which is just not the case. Ads serve 4 primary functions in your marketing efforts. That's either to capture in-market demand, so to capture demand from people who are looking for the type of offer that you're obviously putting out there. Capturing created demand, so this is capturing the demand from people that are already aware of your brand. Let's just drop this down a little bit. Already aware of your brand and already aware of who you are and waiting for an offer from you. They can be used to support the creation of demand by generating more awareness, and they can be used to support the conversion of demand by helping support the sales system. That's all they can really do. They can't do anything else. So in there, you'll see nothing of money machine, ATM, dollar in, dollar out, so on and so forth. Obviously, you can make it look that way, and that's a topic for another time around attribution and the lie that is sold with attribution. This is why most people fail when it comes to ads, is because they don't actually know what ads are used for in their business and just in general. So before you even consider running ads, you need to think about what one of these 4 primary marketing functions am I trying to use ads to serve. So to give a quick crash course in demand, there's typically 3 stages of demand. You've got demand creation, which is essentially brand awareness, generating demand for your brand, letting people know that, hey, I exist, bringing them into your world. There's demand capture, so that's capturing people with an offer. So there's in-market demand with that, and that means simply people who are already looking for that type of solution and they just come across yours. There's created demand, so that's from the people that are already aware of your brand and then they see an offer from you. We capture that demand. And then there's demand conversion, being your sales process. How do we then convert that demand to revenue? So to recap, ads can support us up here by pushing our message to a wider audience. Ads can support us here by capturing people who are already looking for solutions like ours, and we just position ours as a unique, different solution to what's in market. They capture people who are already aware of our brand and then pop through leads, sales, etc., depending on what we're running. And then they can also support the conversion mechanism by putting strategic messages in front of buyers or prospects that are already in pipeline. We just want to make sure they see those messages, and obviously we stay top of mind whilst they are going through a sales process. But again, before you run ads at all, you just got to think what one of those 4, or all 4, or 2 out of 4, whatever, of those functions am I wanting ads to play in my ecosystem, in my marketing engine. For most people, beginners, it's generally starting either here or here and capturing people straight away, and then they'll progress to more supportive campaigns from there. So that's it. There's nothing magical about ads. And again, I want to stress this because so many founders get hoodwinked and misled by people that do just want to sell ad solutions. You'll never catch me promising a ROAS return or promising ROI from ads, because there's so many external factors that influences the success of an ad campaign that are just beyond my control. Now, obviously we want to optimize and make the ads perform as best as possible by going through the things that we're going to go through today, but at the same time, we can't expect them to perform miracles. If your business sucks, obviously not to say anyone here sucks, but if your business is not structured well, if you don't have a great business model, then the ads are still going to fail. Whereas if you tick off the 3 boxes that we go through today and you have a strong business model to partner with that, your ad campaign is going to flourish. So to reiterate this point, a quote I was given from one of my early mentors: a great business scales an ad account, not the other way around. So let's jump into what the right ingredients are, because with the right ingredients, ads can act as rocket fuel to your business. So the ingredients we need are a great offer, a great message, and a strong mechanism. In that order of importance. The offer is the most important, followed by the message, and then the mechanism after that. if I had to throw some numbers to it, I'd probably say like 50% is in the offer, 30% in the message, and then maybe 20%, or maybe even 40% in the message and 10% in the mechanism. The mechanism plays a minimal role. It plays a role, but a minimal role in comparison to the other two in the overall success of the campaign. But that's typically where most people will spend all their time focused on. They want to know what the latest, greatest strategy is when they skip past the foundations, the basics. So let's get into some of those basics, starting with the hero offer. What makes a good offer? Now, a hero offer is just a validated path to purchase, whether that's running through downloads of ebooks or low ticket products or webinars or challenges. Whatever that path to purchase is, a hero offer is a validated path to purchase. If you don't have a validated path to purchase yet, it's one of the first things you're wanting to establish is your hero offer. What is my proven path to purchase? What is the best buying journey and most profitable buying journey for my company? So when you're crafting an offer, Alex Hormozi made this formula that so many people have used to illustrate this, because it does illustrate the point of what really makes a compelling offer tick. And that's increase the level of desire or outcome, so all these up, and the perceived likelihood of achievement, and we want to decrease the time delay and effort and sacrifice that the prospect or buyer has to put in to achieve the outcome. So obviously this is within reason, like you don't just lie and say flake these things. You want to make this obviously real and within the realms of what's possible. But an example that Alex gives for this is like liposuction for people that want to drop some weight. Now, if they want to drop weight, for a lot of people that can obviously be a very big motivational driver, a big desire for them. You're guaranteed to drop the weight through liposuction, so the perceived likelihood of achievement is as high as it can be. The time delay is as low as it can be because it's instant. You go in, like the only time delay is when you can get an appointment. You go in, you have it done, and the effort and sacrifice is minimal. They put you under, I don't even know if they put you under, but you lay down in a chair and you walk out with the weight loss. Now, obviously there's a ton of health repercussions for that, and I'm not going to go into that here, but in terms of an offer, that package is relatively attractive to someone that has a strong desire to lose weight. So we're crafting our offer. We want to make sure that we're following this formula as close as we can. Like, how can we dive into the minds of our prospects and really capture a strong desire that they have, and how can we make it as likely as humanly possible for them to achieve it in the shortest amount of time possible with the least amount of effort and sacrifice possible. If we can circle around those things and just keep rotating around that in our minds as we're crafting our offers, then we're obviously going to come out with a pretty good offer. Now, to do that, there are 4 steps to help really define and refine our offer. That starts with defining the ICP, then going into the outcomes and benefits, then into the unique mechanism, then into unique selling proposition. So let's start with defining your ICP. Most businesses are far from specific enough when it comes to their ICP. They just want to help everyone, and they don't get clear on who is going to benefit the most from their work currently. It doesn't mean you have to serve that market forever, but typically you want to start in as narrow a niche as possible within reason. Like, obviously you don't want to go too obscure, especially if you're here in Australia, like the micro niching that's spoken about in America, where they've got times the population, probably more, I don't even know the population of America, but 10, 20, 30, 100 times bigger population than us. We don't have that luxury of micro niching down as much as they do, but we still want to refine the niche as much as we can so that we can speak directly to that person. Once we're bigger and we can spend more money on marketing, etc., we can broaden that message and reach a wider audience. But initially, we want to dial it into an ICP, which is typically the person that has the problem that we are the best at solving. Whatever the problem you're best at solving will help determine who your ICP is, because we just want to focus on who has that problem the most. Who can we speak to clearly and concisely about that problem? Whether it's from your own experience and your own story, whether it's clients you've worked with that all fit into the same sort of mold as a demographic when you're defining the ICP. We just want to get really clear, because it's going to have a massive impact on everything else going forward in the offer, in terms of the timeframes that you can actually deliver results, the price point you can go for, and the overall delivery of your product or service. Because if you have, say, multiple ICPs, so you have 3 different personas or 3 different customer profiles, you will, and just to recap, ICP stands for Ideal Customer Profile. If you have 3 different ideal customer profiles that need to go on different journeys to achieve the same outcome, you then need to have 3 customized journeys from a delivery perspective for those prospects, for those buyers, which just adds more complexity to when it comes to delivery and scaling and stuff like that. So we want to really narrow down the ICP as much as we can. Could do a whole session on this, but don't have time to do that now. But just know that you need to know who your ICP is. You need to know who you're the best at serving and who has the problem that you're the best at solving and who has it the most, essentially. The next thing we need to know is the outcomes and benefits they're going to get from our offer. Where are they going? What do they want? What's the outcome they want? They're at point A, we're at point B. How can we get them from point A to point B? What results can they expect from working with you? Whether it's a free offer, a low ticket offer, or a high ticket offer, they need to be clear on what to expect with what they're getting from you in return for, whether it's money, details, so on and so forth, whatever they're giving you, and why should they care? What impact is it going to have on their life? What are the consequences of not using your offer or not taking action? And how is this, again, going to help them move from point A to point B? Next, we have the unique mechanism. Now, this is to help you stand out in the market. So you want to give your process a name. Even if you've learnt your process from somewhere else and some certification or something, typically there's going to be an area of that process that is probably quite custom to you, quite adjusted to what it is that you've experienced in your life, and you've put your own little sprinkle and flair onto that mechanism, that process. So this is your unique mechanism. This is your unique process. So give it a name. Make it sound different. Have it stand out and break it down into a step-by-step process so that anyone can follow it and go, oh, okay, when I follow Jerry's mechanism to this, I do step 1, which gets me this, which helps me get to step 2, which gets me this, which helps me get to step 3, which gets me this, and so on and so forth until I get to my goal, until I get to my outcome. And that includes your activation points, so the prospect knows, again, like at the end of each step, what it is they're going to get from that step that's going to help them move into the next step, so that as you're talking through it or as they're reading through it, wherever this is being communicated, they're going, oh yeah, that makes logical sense. So the unique mechanism appeals to that third part of the brain, the neocortex. First part being the croc brain, so we get through that with trust building, validation, social proof, story, so on and so forth. So they realize, okay, this guy's or this girl is legit. They know what they're talking about. They have the credentials that I should probably listen or even take note of what it is that they're offering. The next part of their brain is the midbrain, which is the emotions. This is where we need to know the ICP because we need to know what emotional triggers they have and what drives them from a deep-rooted emotional level. And then we need to tie those emotions to outcomes and benefits. What are we going to get them away from? What fear are we helping them escape? What pain are we helping them pull away from? And what pleasures are we taking them towards? And then that all encompasses our unique mechanism. So that then as a prospect, they can go from trust out of the croc brain into the emotional drivers of like, wouldn't it be great if you had X, Y, and Z and didn't have to deal with ABC? Oh yeah, that really would. Start stirring some emotion. And then, well, to do that, you just need to follow this 3-step process, 5, 7, whatever, step process. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. Now we're appealing to the logic. By the end of that, ideally, they're thinking, that makes total sense. And then we can package that all up with our unique selling propositions. What makes us different from them? And this will have to change based on the maturity of your market. Maturity of the market meaning how competitive it is. If you're entering a very established market, that such as weight loss, for example, where there's millions of different solutions for weight loss, then you're going to have some very different and unique selling propositions to really try and crack a nut in that market. Whereas if you're in a completely blue ocean market that is wide open, there's no real market leader, all you have to do is maybe be cheaper, faster, and that could be it. And that could be your unique selling proposition. But for most people, they're going to be in a highly competitive market. So that's when you really, again, need to understand your ICP. You might use your own personal story or other stories to help create that unique mechanism, can be a part of that unique selling proposition. Could be the speed that you help people get results, the way that you help people get results. Your niche as itself, your ICP as itself can be a unique selling proposition. I only help XYZ person get XYZ result. That can separate you from others that are maybe more general. We want to just know what makes us unique, what makes us stand out. And a guarantee also assist with a unique selling proposition as well. That's the offer. We've got 4 steps to package our offer following the Hormozi formula. We need to make sure our offer ticks all of those boxes and is as compelling as we can possibly make it. The next thing we need to focus on is our message. So finding our message to market fit, meaning we need to make sure that whatever we're saying appeals to the ICP, to the niche, to the right people. Now, I get frustrated all the time with people that complain about ads bringing in crappy leads or poor quality leads, when at the end of the day, those people are resonating with their message. It's not the targeting, like in some cases, depending on what platform you're on, like LinkedIn is a very targeted platform. But if you're running ads on Meta, which is what this is primarily referring to, if you're running ads on Meta, Meta's AI is very sophisticated. You don't really need to do any targeting anymore. And even if you do targeting to try and get a little bit of an edge, which most of the time it doesn't result in an edge anymore, if your message is off, it doesn't matter anyway, because the message is going to resonate with the wrong audience. So you're going to attract the wrong people. So simple as it sounds, to make sure our message is on point, we need to not say the stuff that attracts people who aren't in our ICP, and we need to say more of the stuff that attracts the right people that are in our ICP. That's as simplistic as this can get, but to go into some more depths around the market and market dynamics, because that is important to understand for your message. The overall market dynamics is we've got a total addressable market. So let's say, hypothetically, you served women over 40. Now, that's a big total addressable market. Again, probably too general. You might want to go women over 40 who are married that have 2 kids, and you might niche that down further. But just for example's sake, we'll just say women over 40. Inside that market, that total addressable market, you're going to have different desires. Some that desire to lose weight, some that desire to have a better marriage, some that desire to have a better career. There's all these different desires, and obviously you're trying to tap into one of those desires or possibly multiple desires, depending on what you actually offer as a business. Inside of those desire pockets, there's levels of awareness. So how aware are they of the problem that's holding them back from achieving that desire? Then inside of those levels of awareness, there's market sophistication. So how far down the journey are they? And there's different personas as well. So are they mums with 2 kids? Are they single? Are they this? Are they that? What different personas fit into that overall total addressable market? So one of the ways that we can break this down is with the buyer's pyramid, which is a very old concept, decades old now. I don't know who first came with it. Heard it from Chet Holmes, Eugene Schwartz, some of the early stage marketers. But essentially what this theory suggests is that in a total addressable market, there is typically 3% that are ready to buy now. They're looking for something to purchase now, something to buy. Like if you're in market for shoes, for example, you know you're in market for shoes. I need to find a pair of shoes. You would be in that 3%. There's 7% that are open to buying and know that they need a new pair of shoes, but they're not like desperate. They're like, oh, if a good pair of shoes comes across, then I'll buy them. Then there's 30% who are problem aware but aren't looking for solutions. They know their shoes need replacing, but it's not an urgent problem for them. They're probably thinking, I could probably get a few more months out of these. I'll sort out shoes later on. Then there's 30% that are unaware of the problem but do have the problem. So there might be, if we just continue with the shoes example, their shoes do need replacing. Maybe they're not great for their foot strength, their ankle mobility, their proprioceptors, whatever. But they don't know that those shoes aren't great for them. So we would need to then create the awareness that those shoes are bad for them and that they need to change, possibly, ideally, to our shoes if we were selling shoes. And then there's 30% that just don't care. So if we were selling shoes to women over 40, and we won't go into, again, niching it down for this example, but women over 40, they're looking for new shoes. We've got 3% that are in market, 7% open to buying, 30. So 30% of that market don't give a crap. They're not really looking for anything. And then there's 70% of the market that we can start to play in. Now, that also ties into the stages of awareness model, which essentially means as someone progresses down their buying journey, they become more and more aware of their problems and the solutions to solve those problems. So the bottom of the rung is problem unaware. So these are people that have the problem but don't know it. So we need to introduce the problem into their awareness and make them aware that, hey, if you have these symptoms, that means you are experiencing this problem. And the way that we can do that through educational content, inspirational, entertainment-based content, etc. The ones who are problem aware are the ones who know that they have a problem, but they haven't really found a solution or even bothered trying to look for a solution. So we might use UGC formats, so getting people talking about their experience with our product or offer, founder stories and how-to based things, based content. Solution awareness, so these are people that know they have the problem, they know solutions that are out there for that problem, they just haven't taken action on any of those yet. So for them, we want to be showing them how we're different from our competitors. Product aware, the ones that know about you as a solution, they just haven't seen enough to pull the trigger yet. If I just hit that there, that's people that we might show them testimonials, we might show them reasons why, some social proof, so on and so forth. Now the last step is purchase aware. So these are people that know they want to buy from you, they know that you're good, they value your brand, they just haven't seen an offer that suits them yet. Maybe it's a pricing thing or timing thing or whatever. So for them, we just need to be direct and hopefully put an offer in front of them that matches what they want. And then lastly, the stages of sophistication is, again, the maturity of the market combined with the maturity of the prospect in terms of where they're at on that personal journey. So if they're an early adopter, someone that is either super early into their buying journey, or you've just come into a blue ocean and the market's not very sophisticated and you've got just a really unique offer, you just put it out there, here's the benefits, etc. You don't need to be as fancy when it comes to adapting and calling that out. The other side to that, the next stage is the market that already has competitors in it. So the prospect might have tried a few things already, not got the result. So we want to highlight our unique mechanism and our unique selling points to really exaggerate how we are able to result. Obviously not beyond belief. We don't want to make it sound unbelievable, but also we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot by over-promising and under-delivering. Stage 3 is then people who have tried a number of different things. They've seen people like the online coaching world is an example of that. When guarantees started to come out, people were making guarantees left, right, and center. Whereas now, people are way less trustworthy because a lot of brands didn't fulfill on those guarantees. So throwing a guarantee in is something that can, in some markets, not have that much of an impact, especially if they've been burnt multiple times before. So for that way, we really need to introduce our unique mechanism, our new mechanism, and if we're focusing on people that have been burnt, show them why we're different. Stage 4, we just really need to exaggerate the claim of stage 3. So these are people that have seen it all before, so to speak, and we need to build more trust with them. Then stage 5 is they've been burnt, they're super untrusting of anyone in that market, and to really get them, we need to focus on the mindset and emotion, and sometimes going even against that. Like that's something I've done in my space, in the marketing and like ads world. There are a lot of bad actors. There are people that overpromise and underdeliver. There are people that make crazy guarantees and don't offer their refunds and just keep the money. All sorts of bad stuff happens. So I've taken the complete opposite stance because most of the people I want to work with in that market are in stage 4 or stage 5 level sophistication, where they've been burnt multiple times. They know ads are important in their business, but they've been burnt so many times that they find it hard to trust. So I come from the position of not only just telling the truth, because obviously it's the right thing to do, but saying the complete opposite to what those guys are saying. That's why at the start of this, I preface this with ads are not a money machine. If you're looking at ads as a way to like ride your way to the top of business success, don't do ads. You need to focus on the fundamentals that actually make ads work and make ads successful. By using that message and speaking to that stage of the market, I'm able to get a lot of cut through and speak to the people who have been burnt multiple times, and they trust me to take over and still do the job because I tell them the truth up front. And lo and behold, magical revelation, tell the truth. People will respond when you just tell it how it is. People don't want to be bamboozled and they don't want to be sold the garden trail. They just want to be told what's real. And depending on the level of sophistication they have, they'll know what's real and what's not. So all of those components help make up our message. So when we're going through the testing phase with our ads, we need to tap into a specific desire for what our ICP wants, a desire that they're after, what stage of awareness they're at. So where in the buyer's pyramid crossed with the awareness stages are they at? How sophisticated are they in that market that we're trying to appeal to? And then the concept is just how you communicate that message, whether it's through video or image, us versus them angles, so on and so forth. So the combination of those different market dynamic elements forms our initial message. From there, when we test a number of different messaging combinations of these elements, we'll have a winning angle. Once we find that winning angle, we can then scale that winning angle. And as you scale that winning angle, which we'll go into in another training, But as you scale that winning angle, the portfolio and mix of your messages will change. You'll have certain messages that get you from, say, $100 a day to $1,000 a day spend, but then you'll need a different combination of messages to go from $1,000 a day to $5,000 a day spend, and so on and so forth. So it's never a one and done thing. You don't just find a winner. Sometimes you do find a winner that just does scale for a very long time, but as you scale, the complexity and the mix of your overall message portfolio will change. So you'll have some messages that appeal to certain personas, some messages that appeal to certain other desires, and some at different stages of awareness, so on and so forth. Again, that's a story and a training for another day. So how we present messages through ads is firstly the creative, image or video, the body copy, and the headlines. They're the three components we can use to help communicate this message across. And I use a messaging matrix document to help not only track this, but helps keep my ideas on the right train as well, so that I know that if I've tried what combinations of what as I'm progressing an account forward. So I'll just quickly jump into that document and we can go through that now. Alright, so this is the messaging matrix doc. So some of these terms, if you've never heard of them before, won't make sense. But essentially we use this as the initial element testing period. We use this to test those message combinations that we spoke about. So the desires, the awareness stages, and the sophistication levels, we document them through here, through our learnings. And then as we go through, we're going to find winners, we're going to find losers, and we're going to find ones that just don't make an impact on our business. So this is how we document, or how I document so this is how I document tracking new creative tests and new creative angles that we're testing. But where we start to document some of the information as well is in here we'll list out all the desires of that market, and there's just some random things in there at the moment. So when we're doing our research and we're really identifying our ICP, we find all their desires, we match those desires to our product names and the benefits that they get from the features that we have, and how those benefits actually attire to our desires. So we make sure that if we are using a benefit and we're calling that out through an ad or through any messaging, that it is actually tying to a specific desire that our market has. And then we break down those avatars as well. So as you can see there's a couple of different avatars, executive women, business owners, and then you just note down, like we've got a series of questions here to note down all that information around those different personas that might be within the same total addressable market. And we have our iteration tracking here. So if we iterate on winning campaigns, or winning creatives, then we document those iterations and how they performed. And then we've got some other data points here, like our mechanization, meaning our mechanism, our unique mechanism. So like what are we actually selling? Is it our Jimmy's two-step process or Jimmy's messaging matrix, for example? That could be the product. Again, whatever your unique mechanism is, and then there's some extra fields there. But anyway, we use this process to help make sure that any creative testing we do is in alignment with the message that we have worked out that we want to be portraying to the market. So this just helps us track the impact, and find our winning messaging angles much quicker. So let's jump back into the slides. Alright, back into here, the last stage is the mechanism. So finding your winning mechanism. Again, the mechanism is the least important out of the three, so it's very rarely going to be a needle mover for you, but we do want to make sure we're building it in alignment with how our buyers want to buy. So many brands, founders, businesses will build their sales system based on how their sellers want to sell, or based on how they want to sell, not how their buyer wants to buy. Now, of course, we want to make sure that whatever mechanism we choose, it's sustainable and we can execute it from a company standpoint. But at the same time, we want to tie it into how our buyers typically buy, because the more in line with that we can make our mechanism, the better results we're obviously going to achieve. So how we find out how our buyers want to buy, we conduct market research. We speak to people that are in our ICP and we ask them, who do you see as the market leader? Why do you see it as the market leader? What have you bought before to solve this problem? Why did you buy it? What led to your buying decisions? Who do you go to for information? Where do you research your information? Do you have groups and forums that you go to talk to people about this sort of stuff? We want to get as under the hood as we can into the psychology of how our buyers buy, so that again we can map our buying journey back against that as much as we practically can. So the mechanism that you choose, again, is relatively irrelevant. The VSL, DSL, events, lead magnet, low ticket offers, webinars, all of these can work depending on obviously your skills and the ingredients you have as a company. So I would just choose the one that is most in alignment with how your buyers buy based on how you research. So if you know that your buyers typically like to consume a lot of long form material and information before they end up buying something that matches like what you actually offer, you might run a VSL or a webinar and lean into that long form element. If you know that your buyers are typically quite impulse buyers, you might use a low ticket offer. If you know that your buyers are quite early in their journey and they're just really searching for information and they're going to need a lot of nurturing from a sales side, you might leverage lead magnets. Who knows, the list goes on for all the different mechanisms you can use. But again, the main thing is just to tie it back to how your buyer wants to buy and pick one that you can consistently execute on. And when I say consistently, you need to work on it for 90 days straight. And if you don't see any positive signals, do you deviate? If in that 90 days, your meetings are getting booked, you start making a few sales and things are starting to work, the worst thing you can do is jump from mechanism to mechanism. Nail one, scale that one, and then support it with another if needed. So nail one, support it with another, pick one that is most executional for you in alignment with your buyer. The main message I want to get across here is to build for the buyer. Put the buyer first and then how you want to sell second. There obviously needs to be some meeting in the middle, some compromise that happens on potentially both sides, but that's what will determine what mechanism you choose, and then you go from there. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to create is great buying experiences. We want people to be excited to work with us as much as we can. Like obviously there's going to be resistance, there's going to be the need to have sales skills and collateral and processes and systems and stuff in place, but all of that is really designed to support a great buying journey and a great buying experience so that we don't churn a bunch of customers on the end. A big mistake I see a lot of brands make, especially when they get into ads, is they'll use a lot of clickbait ads, then they'll use high pressure sales to get people to pay thousands of dollars to join something, and then on the back they're like, oh, I don't want to do this, why did I sign up for this? And they all churn out. I've seen businesses go out of business because they've been running it that way. So we don't want to do that. We want to create a great buying experience so that ideally all of those buyers stick with our product, they stick with our service. Ideally they get results. Now obviously you can't get results for everyone. Well, you can depending on what you offer, but a lot of time there's going to be nuances where not everyone's cup of tea, and sometimes you have an unhappy customer. But for the most part, we want over 90% of our buyers to be really loving the experience and having great results, and we do that by building a great buying journey. So if you're thinking about getting into ads, review those 3 components and see where out of the 4 functions that ads can serve, ads actually fit into your ecosystem. If you have a proven offer, if you have a proven message, and you've got a mechanism that's working and you haven't used ads to amplify it, awesome. Use ads to amplify that. If you don't have a proven offer, if you don't have a good message and you don't have a good mechanism or a proven mechanism, I wouldn't use ads. If you're somewhere in the middle where you've got something that's sort of working and you want to use ads to maybe amplify your reach to wider audiences, you want to use it to support the journey, or you want to just really go after a hard market and you know that, hey, there's going to be a period of testing. I'll give 90 days of just testing budget of what you're willing to sacrifice. If you want to really use ads to speed up that learning journey and that learning process, then you can definitely use ads for that as well. And we'll cover that in another training that goes through more of the nuances of how you can use ads to accelerate learning and accelerate your buying journeys. But not in this training as we're running short on time. So if you want the slides to this and the messaging matrix tool that I shared, just add me on IG, follow me there and shoot me a message saying levers and I'll send it across to you. Hit me up on Instagram, give me a follow, just drop straight into my inbox and then I will send that across. Other than that, hopefully you got some value from this session and mainly a warning about what to really look out for when running ads and the 3 core ingredients that you need to have in place before you even start running them.